Campus felt different after that game, like the air carried my name in every direction. People I barely recognized nodded at me with the confidence of old friends. I tried to treat it like background noise, but attention has a way of sticking to your skin. Ava didn't smile the way she used to when I walked toward her. She glanced up, nodded, then drifted back into her screen like it mattered more than me. At first I thought she was tired, but the distance grew with every passing day. Chloe hovered beside her constantly, whispering like they were guarding state secrets. Whenever I approached, they straightened up with awkward smiles that hid something deeper. Logan kept telling me not to overthink it, but he noticed it too. He joked that I'd gained fans, but somehow lost my girlfriend in the process. I laughed it off, though the truth stung more than I admitted. Walking across campus felt like walking through a spotlight I never asked for. Students stopped me to talk about the goal, even if they didn't know my real name. Someone shouted, "Winger guy," from across the quad, and a crowd laughed like it was tradition. Ava hated loud crowds, but she hated being ignored even more. Now she barely joined me for lunch, choosing Chloe's table instead. Their heads bent close together, shoulders touching, sharing conversations I wasn't invited to. Whenever I walked by, they quieted down in a way that wasn't subtle at all. I told myself not to read into it, but patterns have weight. One night, I texted Ava to ask if she wanted to hang out. She replied hours later with a curt, "Busy, maybe tomorrow." Tomorrow came with another excuse that sounded copy-pasted. I asked if something was wrong, and she said everything was fine. But fine never feels this cold. Even in class, she sat further away, pretending she didn't see me enter. Chloe always filled the gap, leaning close to whisper comfort into Ava's ear. Logan nudged me during dinner and asked if we'd broken up without telling him. I shrugged, but I felt the answer crawling uncomfortably in my chest. A week earlier, Ava used to cheer louder than anyone when I played. Now she barely looked up, and teammates congratulated me in passing. I tried to confront the distance gently, but she dodged with practiced ease. She said she needed space, though she never explained why. Space grew into silence, and silence grew into a wall. Meanwhile, the campus kept feeding the spotlight with fresh attention. Someone asked for a picture after practice like I was a celebrity. Ava saw it happen and walked the other direction without a word. I wanted to chase her, but I didn't want to beg for attention that once came easily. Nights became heavier as I replayed small moments that suddenly felt like warnings. Her absence, her whispers with Chloe, her half-hearted smiles that didn't reach her eyes. Little signs kept piling up until they formed a shape I couldn't ignore anymore. Ava fell asleep on my couch that night with her phone buzzing against the table. I wasn't snooping, just moving it so it wouldn't crash to the floor. The screen lit up, and a payment memo stared back at me like a punch. "Good time," with a heart emoji sat above a midnight Uber receipt. Both from the night she said she was studying with Chloe. My stomach dropped in a way that felt too familiar to ignore. I stood there frozen, trying to invent excuses she never earned. Nothing made sense except the worst answer. I didn't wake her or demand explanations like some dramatic movie scene. I placed the phone back where it was and let the silence settle. Truth doesn't need noise to be loud. Morning came with the kind of guilt that announces itself before words do. Ava's eyes were already glossy when she sat up on the couch. She asked if I slept well, and her voice cracked on the second word. I told her we needed to talk, and she broke instantly. Tears came fast, but they felt rehearsed, almost familiar. She said she messed up with someone at a party and didn't mean anything by it. I didn't ask for details because I didn't want images I'd never get rid of. I didn't raise my voice or ask for reasons that wouldn't matter. I just grabbed my keys and walked out before the apology could turn manipulative. Behind me, she kept saying my name in a breaking voice, but I didn't stop. Outside was cold, but cold felt honest. 2 hours later, Chloe called with her version of sympathy. She didn't ask if I was okay, or even pretend to care. She only said, "Ethan, don't ruin my friendship with her." Like my heartbreak was a minor inconvenience to her social calendar. I hung up before she could add anything else self-centered. An hour after that, my mom called with misplaced softness. She said Ava was young and confused, and maybe deserved another chance. I asked if midnight rides and flirty payments were part of being confused. Mom fell silent, but still tried to guide me toward forgiveness to keep the peace. Everyone had an opinion, except the one that mattered to me. I spent the rest of the day moving through campus like a ghost in my own life. People whispered about gossip posts circling online. Someone showed Logan a blurry photo of Ava hugging someone at a house party. He didn't show me, just said, "Man, I think you're better off not looking." But the whispers filled in the parts I refused to see before. Ava texted me paragraphs that shifted between apology and denial. One message begged for a talk. Another blamed alcohol. Another claimed she barely remembered anything. But none of them aligned with the receipts sitting in my mind. That night, I lay awake replaying every cold glance and distant smile. All the signs had been there long before the proof. I just didn't want to believe them. By sunrise, the truth felt settled in a way that couldn't be undone. What broke between us wasn't just trust. It was the person. I thought she was disappearing right in front of me. The gossip page dropped the photo before I even made it to my first class. A blurry shot of Ava, with someone's arm around her waist. No names, but everyone knew exactly who it was about. Comments exploded with theories, jokes, and fake sympathy. I walked through campus, feeling the whispers trail behind me. Every glance lingered longer than it should have. Every group chat seemed to pause when I walked by. Logan caught up to me near the quad with his usual half grin. He told me the post had already hit a few thousand views. He tried to keep it light, but even he looked uneasy. My phone buzzed nonstop, with notifications I refused to open. Someone tagged me in a meme, using my jersey number as the punchline. I muted everything before my sanity cracked for real. At practice, the mood shifted the moment I stepped onto the field. The assistant coach pulled me aside with a serious expression. He said I should sit out a few games to let things cool down. As if my personal life was a wildfire I'd started on purpose. He talked about avoiding distractions while ignoring the goalkeeper's mistakes. My teammates hovered nearby, pretending not to listen. A few said, "Sorry, man," under their breath like it fixed anything. No one defended me, because defending me meant confronting the gossip. I jogged laps alone, while the team scrimmaged without me. Every shout and whistle echoed like a reminder I'd been benched twice. Once by Ava, and now by the people who claimed to have my back. Between drills, Logan texted me updates I never asked for. He said the comments thought I might confront Ava publicly. He laughed about it, but the idea of being the campus soap opera drained me. By lunch, I couldn't even grab a sandwich without hearing her name. Some students whispered, "That's him," like I was a cautionary tale. Others stared with fake pity that made my stomach tighten. Ava walked through the dining hall acting as if nothing had happened. She smiled at people, waved at Chloe, and avoided my line of sight. Chloe sat beside her like a personal bodyguard with selective morality. Whenever our eyes almost met, they both looked away too quickly. I didn't approach them because I knew exactly what they wanted. A scene, an argument, something dramatic to validate their narrative. I refused to give the crowd a show to record. Later that afternoon, Ava texted me again. She said she wanted to explain, properly, this time. But every explanation she sent overlapped with another contradiction. She said it was a misunderstanding, then admitted to guilt, then denied it again. Trying to follow her logic felt like trying to hold water in my hands. I archived every message without replying. Silence wasn't pettiness anymore. It was protection. Rumors kept multiplying like they were breeding in dark corners of campus. Someone said I'd yelled at her. Someone else said she was the victim. None of it was true, but truth didn't matter to an online crowd. By evening, I found myself running drills alone on the empty field. Sweat cleared my mind better than any conversation could. I wasn't sad, just tired of being everyone's entertainment. The sun dipped low as I sprinted through the last cone. I realized the school didn't need facts. It needed a story. And I had been cast without my permission. I chose a neutral coffee shop for the handoff because it felt safe and public. Bright lights, too many laptops, and no chance of a scene. I packed Ava's hoodie, chargers, and the book she pretended to read for photos. On top of it, I placed a printed letter with 4 simple rules. No contact through any channel. No unannounced visits to my apartment or workplace. No messages to my supervisors on my behalf. Any remaining items must be handled through building staff. I rehearsed none of it, but it felt necessary. When I arrived, Ava was already seated with her hands folded tightly. Her eyes flicked to the bag, then to the paper sticking out. She asked if we could talk first, but I told her this was the talk. She pulled out the page and read it slowly, her lips parting in disbelief. Then she tried to cry, but the tears didn't match the timeline. She finally said, "Ethan, none of that happened the way you think." I waited for the revisionist script she'd been practicing. She claimed the cheating confession wasn't real. She said it was a test to see whether I cared enough to fight. She insisted the Uber was for a friend, and the payment was a joke. Her voice shook like she knew the explanations were collapsing before she finished them. I didn't interrupt or correct her, because the truth didn't need my help. I just picked up my coffee, said I had practice, and left her mid-sentence. Outside, the air felt cleaner than any apology could provide. Back at the apartment, Logan was sprawled on the couch with a mixing bowl of cereal. He told me he had something to show me, and for once, he wasn't joking. He pulled up his door camera footage from 2 separate nights. Both clips showed Ava standing at our door at almost the exact times from the receipts. A quick knock, a glance down the hallway, then she disappeared into the dark. Logan tapped the screen like he'd uncovered a government secret. I wrote down the timestamps in my notes with calm precision. Then I changed every password I owned without hesitation. Phone, email, building app, even the Wi-Fi. Logan got the new Wi-Fi code on a sticky note placed on his desk. The next morning, I went to the housing office with straightforward questions. I asked how to handle item returns when contact had to be limited. They handed me a form like they'd dealt with this situation many times. A tagged bag, a date log, and pickup scheduled through staff. It turned my letter into more than paper. It became policy-backed, not easily ignored. That afternoon, Ava texted a long message saying she felt attacked. She said my boundaries were dramatic and unfair. I added the message to my notes without responding. Chloe later tried to twist the dinner ambush into a misunderstanding. She claimed she never promised Ava wouldn't be there. Technical truth, emotional betrayal. I told her future conversations about Ava belonged with my mom or nowhere. She sent a thumbs-down emoji that felt childish for her age. By evening, I felt a strange calm settling in. Not revenge, not victory, just clarity. I finally understood that some people only change when you stop giving them access. The student union announced a forum on digital boundaries, and nobody normally cared. But free pizza changed everything, and half the campus showed up. People filed in with phones ready, hoping the rumors would surface somehow. I wasn't there, but stories reached me before practice even ended. The moderator started with dull slides about online respect and communication. Most students scrolled their feeds, waiting for something entertaining. Then the anonymous submissions began popping up on the projector. The first line hit the room like a dropped microphone. It was a test. If you loved me, you'd pass. Whispers spread instantly as people turned to one another in recognition. Ava's exact phrase, repeated word for word on a massive screen. More submissions rolled in from different phones, different angles, different witnesses. The next line appeared with brutal clarity. Don't ruin my friendship because of your feelings. Chloe's signature brand of guilt slipped onto the screen without mercy. Students gasped, then laughed in that cruel way groups do when truth lands hard. Some held up phones to record the moment like it was a live spectacle. Another submission followed with even sharper impact. I emailed your boss because you weren't coping. The room erupted in disbelief and second-hand embarrassment. Someone yelled, "Who does that?" from the back row. Even the wellness counselor paused, as if she couldn't pretend neutrality. She read the line aloud, trying not to smile as the crowd reacted. A poll question appeared asking if these behaviors seemed healthy. The votes weren't close. A massive red bar for no filled the screen within seconds. Students cheered like they were watching a championship win. Ava and Chloe sat in the front row, shrinking visibly under the weight. They came expecting sympathy, but the audience turned into a courtroom. Chloe raised her hand to add context, but the moderator shut her down. We're evaluating actions, not excuses. The statement sliced through the room like a clean cut. Ava tried to speak next, murmuring about misunderstandings and misquotes. But nobody bought it, and recordings had already begun circulating online. Screens lit up as group chats exploded with real-time commentary. Students whispered, pointed, and reacted with ruthless entertainment. Ava's face flushed red, while Chloe bit her lip hard enough to show panic. They left halfway through, heads down, walking fast like escape was the priority. Someone near the door shouted, "Guess they failed the test." Laughter followed them out like a trailing flame. The gossip page posted screenshots of the poll within the hour. 90% unhealthy, 10% confused. Comments flooded in with memes, jokes, and brutal one-liners. By nightfall, the whole school had seen the results. Clubs, classmates, and group chats discussed it like breaking news. Reputation shifted instantly, and neither Ava nor Chloe could stop it. Later that night, Chloe confronted a student who helped run the gossip page. Witnesses said she begged for a correction or some kind of sympathy post. The admin refused politely and posted a general policy announcement instead. No favors, no edits, no exceptions, only verified submissions. By morning, their repair attempt turned into a new joke in 3 chat groups. I didn't have to defend myself because the campus had already delivered the verdict. All without me saying a single word. Housing sent out a building-wide reminder the next morning about respecting boundaries. The email was generic, but everyone understood exactly who it targeted. Rumors said Ava received a private warning from staff, the kind that didn't go on record. She posted a vague message about rules being used as weapons, hopping for sympathy. Nobody responded, and the silence stung louder than any comment. At my campus job, my supervisor sent a department-wide email. He reminded everyone that communication must be direct and professional. No third parties, no personal updates, no interference. It was his polite way of shutting Ava out without nomming her. Work life became peaceful again, quiet and structured the way I needed. Meanwhile, the guy Ava had been involved with bragged about it in a group chat. Screenshots spread quickly, proving she hadn't been misunderstood or misquoted. Her test story fell apart the moment the receipts surfaced. By Monday morning, students treated the whole mess like solved math. My teammates, who had stayed neutral, finally stepped forward. The captain pulled the coach aside, insisting my benching was pointless. Winning mattered more than gossip, and they needed me back on the field. 2 days later, the assistant coach reinstated me with a stiff nod. No apology, just practicality, but it was enough. At practice, the team cheered lightly when I joined warm-ups. Not because they were sentimental, but because I could score goals again. Reputation shifted as quickly as it had collapsed. People who avoided me during the rumors now greeted me with respect. Students asked for tutoring slots, hoping I had space for one more. I posted a new study guide, and downloads spiked before I even logged off. Ava and Chloe, once loud presences, slipped into the background. Chloe's friends stopped inviting her to group study sessions. She complained online about being excluded, but nobody comforted her. A weekend trip she planned happened without her, leaving her stunned. Someone replied to her vague complaint with, "Actions have consequences." Ava kept to herself in dining halls, sitting alone with her hood up. People walked past her without a glance, the way you pass old posters. Logan delivered nightly updates like a sports commentator. He mentioned her turning off comments, deleting posts, then logging off entirely. He never gloated, but he enjoyed the cosmic balance of it all. I stayed focused on practice, classes, and tutoring. My phone buzzed constantly, but I ignored anything not related to school. The only thing I posted publicly was the weekly scrimmage schedule. Athletics boosted it like always, sending more players to the field. Then Chloe texted me with a message that felt like desperation. She asked for a private talk with no tricks, claiming she wanted closure. I waited a few days before agreeing, letting her sit with the silence. When we met, she tried to reframe everything as misunderstandings and miscommunication. She said Ava was unstable, not unfaithful, and I had misread everything. She blamed stress, pressure, timing, and anything that wasn't her responsibility. I listened without reacting because her script was predictable. She insisted my boundary letter was cruel, almost vindictive. I asked her if she understood what boundaries meant. She didn't answer because she didn't want the real answer. Then she begged me to apologize publicly so her reputation could recover. Her voice cracked when she realized I wasn't going to rescue her. Before I could reply, my mom interrupted the conversation. She told Chloe to stop pressuring me and accept the consequences of her choices. It was the first time someone else held the line for me. Chloe slumped back, stunned that her influence finally failed. I stood up, said I only wanted peace, and left without looking back. Life reset quietly after that moment. I signed a new lease with Logan, started a paid internship, and returned to the starting lineup. Campus felt lighter when I walked across it, like the noise finally faded. Ava became a ghost lingering in familiar places, unnoticed by the crowds. One night I passed her near the library, hunched over her phone in the dark. She didn't see me, and I didn't slow down. Some stories end with apologies or final speeches. Ours ended with silence and distance, exactly the way it needed to. The semester settled into a quiet rhythm that finally felt like my own again. Practice, classes, and tutoring filled my days with steady purpose. Logan and I signed our new lease, sealing off any chance of surprise intrusions. My internship paperwork came through, giving me something solid to build toward. People greeted me without the hesitation they once carried. Whispers faded, replaced by nods of respect and simple normalcy. Ava drifted further into the background of campus life, like a fading silhouette. Chloe kept her distance, sending only brief updates about family events. Peace arrived slowly, not as a reward but as something earned. One evening I crossed the courtyard after practice, the sky dim and calm. I saw Ava on a bench, hood up, staring at her phone with hollow focus. Students walked past her without a pause, absorbed in their own lives. She looked small, like a memory trying to hold itself together. I kept walking without changing pace, letting the moment pass untouched. Some endings require no words, no closure, no final glance. I didn't need revenge or validation. I just needed distance, and I finally had it. The story closed quietly, leaving only space for what came next.